Hi, I'm Brian from How We Got Here Genealogy. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the different relationships we have in our family. In particular, I'm going to talk to one that seems to confuse most people, cousins. So, growing up, my mother had no siblings, so I have no uncles or aunts on that side of the family. She was close to her cousins, and they were honestly more like uncles and aunts to me, but I was never really sure what to call them. If you're like me, if you're ever at a wedding or a family reunion, there's people there you know you're related to, but you really can't put your finger on how. This video will help you to figure out that and much more. We all know what we call our parents. We know that our siblings, they're our brothers and our sisters. And we know that our parents are our grandparents. And we know that our parents' um, siblings, they're our aunts and uncles. And we know that our aunts and uncles, their children, are our cousins. They're also our parents' nieces and nephews. And some people call their grandparents' siblings their great uncles or their great aunts. But that's not right. Because you see, they're actually our granduncles and grandaunts. Because great is a name that's used for the level or the generation before your grandparents. So you have your grandparents and then your great grandparents. So your siblings, the siblings of your grandparents, are your granduncles and your grandaunts. So far at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, Brian, yeah, I know all this. Um, what about this cousin stuff you promised us? So, yeah, that's really, most people up to this point do know all this. I mean, some people, like I said, might have mixed up the great aunt and grand aunt and used those terms incorrectly, but for the most part, everybody gets the rest of the things right. We all know a brother and uncle, niece and nephew, but it's the cousins. And I'm sure that's why you're here watching this, because you're wanting to find out that. So, there's the obvious one that we know. Um, my uncle and aunts, their child is my first cousin. As you can see, if I go over, they're the first cousin that I have on on the same level as me. So now my mom's first cousin, which would be this person here. Now, what is their relation to me? This is the one, like I said, that I always had a problem with because my mom didn't have any um, brothers and sisters, so I had no first cousins on my mom's side, and I always, like I said, they were sort of like uncles and aunts, but um, I used to call them my second cousins because that's what I thought they were, but I was wrong. Because my second cousins, if I actually go over one, two, the second group of cousins on this level, are actually their children. So, um, but what does that make them? Well, they and my mom are first cousins because they have their common ancestor. Again, remember, ancestors are who you're descended from. So, what they have in common would be um, their grandparent, or in this case, would be my great grandparent. So, again, when you're looking at cousins, how you figure it out is you don't count the level that your parents are at because everybody's going to have different parents. If not, they would be your brothers and sisters. So your first cousins, my mom's first cousin rather, is related by her in this case, grandmother, but grandparent, and it's my cousins. It's all their grandparent as well, my great grandfather. So when you have cousins that aren't on the same level as you, because all your first, second, and thirds are all going to be on the same level. And I'll show that a little further when I go to here. Now I'm going to move myself around there so you can see. Now I have multiple cousins. I have my first cousins here, like I said, my second cousins, and this here would be my third cousin. And how we determine that is, again, based on when I follow this chart, they're on the same level. This is my first cousin group. This is my second cousin group. And this would be my third one because it's the third one over. I would have that on both sides of my family tree. I'm just looking at one side here because if not, it'd be too large. So again, that still leaves the question, what about my mom's first cousin? The parents of my second cousin. So my mom's first cousin, we are related through, like I said, my great-grandfather, their grandfather. So they are one generation from our common ancestor. So we're first cousins because of that, but I'm actually not. It's not my grandfather, it's my great-grandfather. So we're first cousins, but I'm removed. I'm down one level from him. So he's my first cousin once removed. That sounds confusing because that actually sounds like he's farther away maybe than my second cousin, but it's not. It's sort of like an in-betweener if you want to think about it like that. So we're one level away. So he's not my first cousin, but on the next level, they are my first cousins, but we're once removed. Likewise, if I was to go and I was to look at my grandparents' first cousin, right there. Now, what relation are they to me? They would be again, our common ancestor in this case would be my second great-grandfather, but it is only their first grandfather, their grandfather, sorry. So understanding these cousins' relationships, like I said, to a genealogist, it's more than just knowing how to greet a person at a family event and saying, hey, yeah, Bob, you're my second cousin. It can really be helpful in understanding your relationships when you're looking at developing your family tree further. So understanding these cousins' relationships, like I said, to a genealogist, it's more than just knowing how to greet a person at a family event and saying, hey, yeah, Bob, you're my second cousin. It can really be helpful in understanding your relationships when you're looking at developing your family tree further. When you're looking at your matches that you get, if you've done a DNA test, you'll get matches that tell you there's a cousin range usually. So it gives you a place where you can start looking and trying to figure out where that common ancestor is. Most times they'll give you something like you're between fourth and sixth cousins, so you know where to look by just simply taking your chart and knowing if they're your fourth cousins, they are going to be possibly, if you're both fourth cousins to each other, then there's no removed. You could be related through your third great-grandparent. Remember the rules of G. You have grandparent and then 3 G's, 3 greats. So you'd be looking around there and trying to trace it. And this can be very helpful because often you have on your family tree these branches that, again, I've talked about it before, that aren't your ancestors, but they are your relatives. And your relatives have a common ancestor. And they can actually be very helpful because sometimes they might have more information. For instance, if I'm related through my third great-grandfather and I have no idea who that even is. Or maybe I don't know who his parents are. It is quite possible that they might have that information if they have a family tree, um, which helps me fill out my information more. Now that you've learned about who's who in your family, which cousins are which, and where they belong in your family relationship, it's a great time to start working on your own family tree if you haven't already. I recommend starting with this video right over here. And in the meantime, please subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so that you'll be notified when more of my videos come out. And check out these videos on DNA and your family tree. So until next time, keep searching for your ancestors.